There we go. Welcome to the Lightning Talks. So today we have 8 speakers scheduled, 5 minutes apiece in half an hour. We're going to run over just slightly, but since they moved this talk an hour earlier than where it was on the schedule, we're going to go for it. So 4 minutes in on the speaker, we will hear the bell. In the unlikely event you hear a double bell, it means I would have gonged you, but I'm trying to give you a chance to get out of here gracefully. When you get to 5 minutes, we will be using the gong. They will then unplug their laptop and leave. The next person will go up and plug in. While they are switching, we can do advertisements. If you have an advertisement to give, just wander down to the front row, and then while they are switching, you come over and I will hand you this microphone. You say what you got to say. Give me the microphone back, and by the time you finish, the speaker should be ready to go. If there are technical problems, we can always go with a second ad to fill the space. Remember, if you're hiring or you have a user group or anything else, that's good reasons to come down here and say something. At the end of the advertisement, I will hit the gong so we know we're moving on. Speakers, if they are still clapping or something for the advertiser, don't start till they finish. I won't count it against you. Advertisers, if they're still making noise for the speaker, hold on, I won't count the time against you. Your time starts when you make a speaker move, which means you start touching your slides or you open your mouth. I think that covers most everything, so let's get going.
Okay, well, hi CPOSC. This is a talk about how data is power. This is going to be quick, but this is me taking a bunch of stuff that if you're in the local tech Slack, which I encourage everyone to join, this is a story that has gone on for a couple, maybe like 2 months now. So it all starts with, as most stories do, packet loss. I live out in the woods. We have one option for internet. It is resold Comcast, where like 4 people have run the last mile of cable to my house. If it's having a bad time, I have a bad time. So I went on a journey to figure out how to make this better, because I can't just say, hey, it's slow. That doesn't really get a lot of results. So the first thing I did was I figured out how can I just understand how this is bad. And so landed on SmokePing. It's a fantastic tool. It's been around for a long time. Very established product, open source, good community. So I just plugged in a couple endpoints. I ran this. I generated some graphs. If you live in Austin with like gigabit fiber, this is a graph you would see. This is a graph I saw. So green is good. Those are on the edges. And you can see like my internet was like two-face here, where it was great during the day, and then overnight, what the hell's going on? You can see in the bottom left there where it has packet loss. The average packet loss there is like 37%. But if you just zoom in on the bad parts, you can see there's gaps in there. The modem's rebooting. It doesn't know what's going on. The packet loss there is 55%. Not ideal. And yeah, the big chunks where things were going out. So now I had graphs, and I was able to, the person running my ISP gave me their cell phone number and said, just text me when you have problems. And I tried really hard not to abuse that. And because I just didn't want to be ignored, I didn't want to be too annoying that they could ignore me. I just want to be just annoying enough to get results. And then, so I have these graphs, latency graphs. Then I remembered, wait, my cable modem has an admin panel. What's in there? And so I pull it up and look at this. There's channels, there's frequency, there's all of these numbers. And so signal to noise ratio, very important number, higher the better. And then total uncorrectable code words is like, packet, like bad packets. It's like the signal's too noisy. So I saw those numbers, and I think I'll put them in to, oh, right. So this one's like 44%. This one channel is just like terrible. So I took all those numbers, I threw them into RRD tool, which is what SmokePing uses. It's a database format. Also tons of tooling on top of it to generate graphs. It's been around forever, open source. And And so I take all that data, shove it in there, and I can make graphs like this, pretty rainbows of terribleness. The signal to noise ratio, I came to really love these style of graphs where you have the median is like the solid line, and then you have your outliers up and down. You can just see how bad things are. But now I have like data and graphs, and I can say, hey, look, like around this time, I have this like terrible packet loss, and also the signal to noise ratio like plummets. Like this is pretty strong correlation that like the network is not doing great. And then I had a really bad week where I really thought my cable modem was dying. It was like 12 years old. It was just having an awful time. So thank you to Paul Drake, who I haven't run into today. So I don't know if he's here. He sold me a lightly used cable modem, which was pretty recent. And my old cable modem connected on 8 channels. This one connected on 16. So I thought more channels better, right? But cable modems are extremely terrible. They will identify bad channels, but refuse to not use them. They will continue to use them. And so down here, you can see like the signal to noise ratio is 0. It just keeps recycling, but yet it won't stop using it. Those numbers on the right are like the uncorrectable code words. But the happy news is being able to like present this, like here's what I'm experiencing, here's how it's bad, here I can show you these 3 channels are terrible. I was persistent enough that on the left side there's the tears and rain graph, and then in the middle where there's a gap on the right side, they decided to turn off those bad frequencies because I don't have control over my cable modem to say don't use these. He had to, at the network level, turn them off, and now the signal is flawless. You can see like at the bottom, the packet loss is not great on the left. On the right, it's better. And yeah, like these are like, this is fantastic, and data gets results. I just want to encourage you to monitor your internet so that once it's terrible, if you're having issues, like present graphs, present data. Be like, here are the times when things are bad. And then if you can correlate that with signal, if you can correlate that with weather, which is really weird, that's another rant, maybe you'll get in touch with someone that can actually fix it. And now I went overboard and I dumped it into Prometheus and Grafana, and I have these fun heat maps that are awesome. And yeah, things are good. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Tim Schreier. I am the Elastic team lead in Industrial Resolution. Come to the after party. Follow the crowd. I just wanted to advertise on the 3rd Wednesday of every month, we have an Elastic meetup at the Pub Forge. We have a half-an-hour talk on an Elastic tech topic. We often get employees from Elastic to come talk, which is awesome. We then have a half an hour of Elastic news. There's always news. There's always breaking new versions. And then we do an Ask Me Anything, free Elastic consulting with pizza and beer. Ooh. So come see us 3rd Wednesdays at the Pub Forge.
My turn? All right. Let's go. Code and I/O reading, the cycle of the ancient ones and gaining wisdom. How did I come to this view? Working on legacy systems, we found having a negative mindset about the authors biased how well we refactored the legacy code. We offset this code by calling those before us the ancient ones. They were wise for the times. They were doing their best they could in those times. We did not know the challenges they faced and drove their implementations. We chose to ascribe positive intent to those who came before us. Why is finding wisdom important? With greater animation of code generation, we will move from creators of code to editors of code. We will need to gain our wisdom more by reading and not by writing. Writing code will shift to something we do just to practice and prove things to our intellect. If you want to deepen your depth of knowledge on technology, getting more intimate with its I/O is key. That's the second part to reading. Gaining wisdom has always increased my salary and peace of mind, and I think that trend will continue. The cycle of the ancient ones. In the age of AI and low code, wisdom will come from the ancient ones. They are the ones who authored the code we will read. Assume positive intent of the ancient ones is the mindset to embrace. They were wise in their day, as wise as we are. Their intentions were as good as ours. Tomorrow, we'll become the fucking ancient ones. All right, what is code reading? It's not code reviews. They're a form of coaching and improving things. It's not reading a part of modifying code. That's a sort of narrow window. It's not planning a refactor. That's making a sequel. Those are reading code for business purposes, even if it's open source, right? Like you're trying to get something out of it. You need to read code from time to time for the joy of it. It's reading code to gain wisdom of the authors. It looks like that. Intro to code reading. Start with the familiar. Use a framework or library that you've used before and often. Get its source code. Give it a read by starting in an area of the code you didn't use often. Start moving to the unknown. Find a framework or library in a language you don't know. Start reading the point from the initiates itself, main, whatever. Questions to ponder while reading. How does the code feel when reading it versus when coding against it, right? Like you're given snippets in your VS Code and stuff like that for expansions and things like that. It's very different when you're able to read that sort of like whole expansion. Can you feel the difference in authors between modules, et cetera? Does this style have different evolutions to it, right? Do you see that they changed maybe some principles to how they were building things? Can you sense how it works in the compiler or interpreter? Do parts feel more raw, more simplistic? Is parts of it obfuscated or efficient? Does the code show if the engineers were treated and respected in their craft? It's a fun thing to fucking look for. Comments will definitely tell you some real stories, but you can also start to just see it in frustrating code. How the code relates to its documentation. So after you've done some casual reading, look at the documentation. How does it relate? Does it feel like it shares the same authors? How is it abstracting the code? What wisdom is the documentation missing? And I think that's an important thing, is usually documentation can encompass wisdom. What is reading I/O? I/O is what the code consumes or creates. It's how the code interacts with hardware. It's also a part of I/O, right? Like I/O is interpreted by the tools, though, that you're using to read the I/O. So the key is to understand how they interpret your communication. It's getting closer to the hardware. To understand the raw I/O of code is to understand the nature of code. It looks like that. Reading I/O. It's binary that's interpreted. You always are reading an interpretation. Get as close to the binary as you can. Wireshark, not fiddler. You want to see more than HTTP and HTTPS. You want to see what's going on around you on the network. Valgrind and its call grind. Tail a file as it's being written. Forensic is a topic onto its own, and that's how you can go much deeper into these things, is starting to learn about forensics. Thinking about encodings in I/O. How is the encoding being set? What do you miss and gain by moving further away from the binary? How smooth is it writing a file? How to get deeper into it? The kernel you must go. dtrace, strace, sysdig. I don't know what the fuck you do for Windows. That's not a dig on Windows. I just never really played in that realm. Book club approach. Much like a book clubs that you have for reading Mythical Man Month, Clean Code, things along those lines. You just read code and I/O as a group. You share your take on it, how it made you feel, how you felt the authors were represented and what you consumed. It's a group discussion where no one's job is on the line. That's it. That's code reading and the ancient ones. Thank you.
You need another ad from me? Every third Wednesday at the Pub Forge. Every fourth Thursday at the Pub Forge is the Tech Lancaster Meetup, the flagship of Lancaster Meetups. If you didn't sign up, go click the QR code out in the lobby as on your way out.
Somehow I will condense a whole college major into about 5 minutes. This is on how to teach the major's education. Well, now I gotta go back. Okay, so what I'm doing is mostly backwards design. This is the main way process that we can use to teach. A great book to use is Understanding by Design by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe. That's the ISB number. Make sure you copy that down. It's on the test. Basically, we're going to develop goals, then we'll develop the material, and then we'll create assignments. It is also, so first we have to develop goals. They're also called learning objectives. The main goal, or the main reason we do this, is if the student understands the topic, they should be able to complete the goal. The goal should be smart, specific, measurable, actionable, relatable, time achievable. Bloom's, one way we gotta make sure that we use really good verbs when we're doing this. One way that we can do is using Bloom's taxonomy. We do not actually use the word understanding. Instead, a good one to maybe do is that the student will memorize something of the material. You do not want to put understanding because understanding is not very specific and it's not very measurable. Material, you want to get down to the student's level. You want to try and explain jargon. You want to test in the middle and explain further and add examples when you need to. So assessments, they are testing for the understanding, and usually they're testing the goal. It doesn't need to be an actual test, and it can be a project. It just needs to measure the goal. So let's create a quick lesson on Git commit. That's the topic. So first we gotta create some goals. So this is participation, class participation time. So we could go ahead and do something with creating. So how could we maybe or actually let's go down to at least understanding, because git commit is just git commit command is actually very thing. So we could have them maybe explain git commit. Or we could have them, or if we want to go down to remembering, we can have them define git commit, or we can go all the way up to maybe judging what flags to use for git commit. With the material, we would just teach it, right? We would just say, hey, when you're creating a repo, you want to get it up to your production and you use git commit, here's the flags, yada, yada, yada. For assessments, we would then just grade it. We would create the test and we would go ahead and grade it. And if they do the assessment and they pass, well, now we can have a good we as a teacher would understand how it understands. And this is how you basically create a lesson for teaching somebody, and you could probably use this to develop your own talk. Thank you, and please bring a number 2 pencil for the final.
Hi, CPAS. My name is Logan Farr. I don't have anything prepared because I wasn't planning on doing this until a couple hours ago. So you guys get to listen to me wing a 4-minute monologue. Sorry. Okay, so today I just wanted to share something with you guys. I've talked with a lot of people today who are new or who are trying to get into the tech industry, right? And I've been doing engineering for over a decade. I've hired and built teams for a large portion of that. I've helped engineers grow from a junior engineer all the way up to a senior engineer and to team leads of their own. I wanted to share with you guys today one of the most important skills in tech that you can have is actually curiosity. Right, and curiosity is a little bit tricky because at first you don't really think of it as a skill. You think of it kind of more as a trait, right? Like, oh, they're a naturally curious person. Curiosity is also not something that it can't really be taught, but it can be learned, right? And it is useful in every single aspect, from solutioning to what other options can we have or can we do? What's the cost implications? What's the most performant? And just kind of generally asking like, hey, what can we do? And just letting those creative juices flow. to retrospectives of asking why and why and why over and over again of like, why did this break? Well, this happened. Why did that happen? Well, because the user input that. Why did the user input that? Well, because they thought that they were on a different form. Okay, well, then you need to go revisit your UX, right? It's something that takes practice, and it's something that takes habit. And that habit involves you questioning a lot of things. And that's a good thing, right? When you start questioning the status quo, when you start questioning how does this work, when you start questioning why is this like this, you start to get answers, and not only do you find opportunities to improve on, but you also find opportunities to grow in. I started in front-end engineering. I built HTML marketing emails, and got really curious about how our e-commerce site worked and how we processed orders. So I started looking at back-end systems and saying like, hey, when I am sending this email, what triggers that? And learning how to do back-end programming. It also benefits you to do that later in your career. By raise of hands, how many of you have heard about the XZ utils vulnerability that came out this week? Ah, good, most of you. So the XZ utils vulnerability, for those of you who don't know, it's called a supply chain vulnerability. A malicious state actor contributed to the XZ open source repository for a number of years, gaining trust. And then eventually slipped in a tiny remote code execution vulnerability into this package that opened up a lot of issues and a lot of scary stuff for SSH connections. Do you guys know how that was caught? An employee at Microsoft, a Postgres contributor, realized his SSH connection was 500 milliseconds slower and was curious as to why that was happening and dug into it, and sure enough found essentially a 0-day vulnerability, right? So it's beneficial not just to expand your skill set and to keep asking why and to keep like finding new things. It's not just beneficial for getting to the root cause of a problem. It's beneficial for finding new problems and to even maintain security. So what I want to propose to all of you guys is not just to ask why, but make it a personal challenge to find the answer and to learn something from that. Thank you.
Meetups that happen here in Lancaster. Philadelphia is not to be left out. If you go to phillylinux.org, you will find that they're both online right now, but it is the first Wednesday and the second Tuesday of the month. Still online. We're looking for a new place to meet in person, but it'll happen eventually. And if anybody has any other user groups or conferences you're going to soon, that would be a good advertisement.
Hello, I'm Joshua Boyd. Usually if I talk somewhere, it ends up being something on the bit more frivolous side. So today I'm going to talk briefly about the TIC80 Fantasy Microconsole. I don't know why I'm not having my presenter notes, so I'll be trying to do it from memory. It starts off trying to pretend that it's more or less something of the kind of the capabilities of, say, a Commodore 64 or something of that age. It has 16 colors, a very low resolution of like 160 pixels wide by whatever. But they do make some changes. They switch out the basic and assembly for Lua, and then they include a few tools to make it easier, slightly better code editor than I've ever seen on a 1980s computer, sprite editor, music editor, and that enables you to make games like this, or this, or this. So anyway, briefly switching topics, there's also Tech Lancaster, which Tim already covered, so I guess I'll skip most of that. But I was thinking of possibly having a 6 weeks over the summer of, people exploring TIC80 just to have some fun making stupidly little games, and then maybe we'd present them at Tech Lancaster later. Anyway, that's pretty much all I had to say. I don't think that was actually filling my time, so hopefully people can adjust to that.
Hi, it's me again. This is the last time you'll hear from me, I promise. Wanted to do a quick plug for a couple AWS meetups. There is a Greater Philadelphia AWS meetup that meets once a month, about like third or fourth Thursday, I think. And then there is a brand new, like just had their first meeting last month, AWS meetup for Central Pennsylvania. They meet in Harrisburg. So if you're interested in anything cloud, come check it out.
Hi everyone, my name is Michael. Today I'm going to show you how to create a song, lyrics and all, using AI in less than 5 minutes. And so just to motivate this a little bit, so some of you might have seen this going around on Twitter. In the last few days, someone decided to create a song of an AI singing the MIT open source license as lyrics. And this is what it sounds like. Hopefully,
Permission is hereby granted, free of charge, to any person obtaining a copy of this software and associated documentation.
All right, so that's cool. But we can actually go a little further than that and build our own song right now. So we're going to need to do some Mad Libs, and so I will need your guys' participation. Can someone give me an adjective?
Open source.
Inspiring. A genre of music. Give me a person, place, thing, situation.
Origami spiders.
Male or female vocalist. Let's do female. I don't know what it will do with the non-binary vocalist. And any other adjectives or vibes you want. All right, let's create that. And while we're waiting, yes, you can see in the sidebar that I made a song about my dachshund, a Midwest emo song. Happy to share that with you if any of you are into Midwest emo. It picked the name. There's a custom mode that you can do where you give it your own lyrics, which is how they did the MIT one. I don't know if you can give it your own name.
In the darkness where we reside, origami spiders crawling deep inside. I'm sorry for the pain I've caused, for all the heartbreak and the loss. Shadows dancing in the dead of night, whispers echoes, fueling the fight. Apologies won't mend these scars, but I'll tear apart these walls, these bars. Dissecting shadows, feeling the pain. Apologies won't mend these scars, but I'll tear apart these walls, these bars. Dissecting shadows, feeling the pain. Apologies in ashes, falling like rain. Breathing fire, burning the past. I'm sorry for the damage that I've caused to last.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Coming up this July, 12th to 14th, Hackers on Planet Earth Conference in Queens, New York. If you're interested, hope.net.
Ready to get started? Hi, my name's Tom Courtney. I have twin identical sons. They're 36 years old over near Philadelphia. And between those two, I have 5 grandchildren that are 7 and lower. And I go over there quite often to do a lot, and I love spending time with my grandkids. Any of you with kids, have you ever heard the book, The Wonky Donkey? One there. It's a very popular book. Anyway, somebody was reading it to me, and actually, I got to go back a little bit. So my grandkids, I don't want them to call me Grandpa, so I asked them to call me Poppy. Okay, so I go by Poppy. About a year ago, I had knee replacement surgery, and it hasn't gone so well, so I've been limping around a lot. So my one son started calling me Poppy Loppy. Okay, all the kids, I am officially Poppy Loppy. When I heard about this book, The Wonky Donkey, somebody said, why don't you create a book called The Poppy Loppy? I know nothing about illustration. I know nothing about publishing. But I used AI and a whole bunch of, and a couple different open source tools, and I just published this about 3 weeks ago on Amazon called The Poppy Loppy. And it's all about the story. So you can see there's a kangaroo that represents me, and in all the images he has crutches and he's got a bandage on his leg. And I also took pictures of my grandchildren, and I used Dolly and ChatGPT to create things I've done with my grandchildren. Like flying a drone with my grandson Teddy, and he's blowing bubbles. So I've got an animated picture. So there were a lot of challenges, especially getting character consistency. That's one of the big problems with this. So I did a variety of research. I ended up creating a GPT in OpenAI that can create the character I want. And so after creating that, I can have character consistency as well as I wanted a particular style. So I kind of went with this 3D feature film animated cartoon style, and that's trained in the GPT. So the open source tools I used, so I asked, I'm constantly asking ChatGPT, I know nothing about this. Can you recommend some tools for publishing? I don't want to pay any money. So they said, Scribus. I don't know if anybody's ever used it. So I go, okay. So I just kept saying, how do I do this? How do I do this? And then I had to edit a lot of the images. So I used GIMP. I don't know if anybody's ever used GIMP. It's an open source version of Adobe Photoshop. So like one of the images, the GPT, put a pair of glasses on one of the characters. And I said, how do I get the glasses off? And take me step through step by GIMP, exactly how to do this. It was right almost every time. So it took me about 3 months, to go from knowing nothing about this to, this is on Amazon, Kindle. So all 5 of my grandkids, are in here. So there's kind of a dedication here, to my grandkids. So, there was earlier talk about leaving a legacy, digital immortality. So my immortality, I will be forever known as the kangaroo, Poppy Loppy, to my grandsons. But using ChatGPT I never would have thought that this would have been possible, to do something like this. And my kids or grandkids, they really like it. And my son called me the other day. He's got an intercom in his son's bedroom. And he said he overheard, Wyatt reading the book to himself, It's like, really warmed my heart. So I hope this is something, that they can, long after I'm gone, this will, be my digital footprint, hopefully. So if anyone's, interested in learning more about this, I'd be happy to help somebody's interested in any of these techniques.
I apologize. I'll be presenting from my phone. I whipped this up about an hour ago, but I hope you still enjoy. Okay, so who knows what the dead internet theory is? Okay, all right, decent few. Basically, some people would describe it as a conspiracy theory that content on the internet, at least almost all of it, is both created and consumed by bots. And this is sort of becoming, it's coming back with LLMs. In 2016, there was a security firm that did some research and found that about 52% of traffic was from bots. So that's kind of scary. With the purchase of Twitter, there were some studies there and found that there was like 10 to 15% of the daily active users were bots, I think was the number. But I find this interesting because lately I've been seeing some bad Facebook memes that I think can only be described by a dying internet. So this is very similar to the first one that I saw. It's a man possibly holding someone, and then mud in a bus. The description doesn't really make any sense. It's got some interactions. It's weird. I think a lot of us would be able to identify this as AI-generated content. Here's another one. This one has a lot of interactions, 220,000. You can see there's the same theme here. It looks like it might be Jesus if you squint your eyes. Again, the description still doesn't make any sense. Remember that one though. This is one account. But you'll see this description later. So some of these are interesting. There's different themes. Again, I think a lot of us would be able to tell that this is not real. Creative ideas, though, maybe. So there's quite a few like these. This page, there's just hundreds of these pictures that they post every day. Some more. Here's another bus one. This one doesn't make any sense with the legs. Not totally sure what's going on there. There's the same description, but it's from a different account. Interesting. This one I liked, it's a snake, cool. Hans seems to have figured it out, though. He's done with this AI. Here's another one. I thought this one was kind of cool. If you squint, you can see it. When you're just looking at it on your phone, you might not see it at first. Again, this might look like Jesus. Maybe Joel, maybe some others that are here today. I'm allowed to make that joke. This was me a year ago. Check out that hair. Uh-oh. Okay. So this video, I thought this was interesting. This is one of those pages. It looks like they're generating these images iteratively. I would guess that they're trying to see how much interaction each one of them gets and then tweak the prompt for each one. Most of them are terrible and don't get any interactions, but you can sort of see how they morph from post to post, and I thought that was really interesting. Bizarre. This one, it's a sad picture, right? AI generated. But it says, "Today's my birthday. I hope I get some love here." All of the comments seem to ignore the picture. Everybody says, "Happy birthday." I would think this is indicative of some bot reactions, right? Some fun GIFs in there. Here's another theme, sort of pretending, I made this, right? I sculpted this motorcycle with my own hands. That's pretty cool. Another sculpture. That's very cool. Lots of talent. That's what everybody else seems to agree. Very talented. Thank you. Yeah. Good work, everyone. I want to give a special thank you to Betty Webb here. So if you notice, this is the picture she was commenting on. She said, "You did a great job, young man. weird line break, beautiful. Here's another one, another dog. This one's made out of rocks. And Betty Webb has the same thing to say about that one. So I think that pretty much solidifies the, it was pretty obvious the content creation was mostly bots. I think Betty Webb here has confirmed in my mind that a lot of the consumption and reactions is bots. Looking at a lot of the posts, they'll have the same sort of level of reactions on Facebook, but some of them, like the one I showed in the beginning, will really catch on, and I think real people are seeing these things. So I wanted to take a moment and suggest that you talk to a parent, grandparent, friends you know who are less tech literate, and let them know that this is going on and that you can't really make a motorcycle out of plastic bottles. So, thank you. Oh, come to the after party at India's Pub Forge. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this year's lightning talks. So let's thank the speakers. We will be starting the finish here in a moment, so all the organizers who need to be here start wandering down. A few words about the lightning talks. We've been doing them at this conference since 2012. The Gong and I will probably be back next year. So start thinking now about what you would like to do. When we started the day, there were only going to be 2 speakers. We got up to 8, although it'd be nicer if you would tell me before we actually started the day. If you can't wait till next year at this conference, the Gong and I will also be going to the Pearl Raku conference the last week of June in Las Vegas. Put in Pearl Raku conference in the search engine of your choice, and you can find all the interesting details. And now I'll give it to them.